your main ideas in the order that you deal with them when actually building a treehouse. You'd organize them chronologically, so your main ideas could be arranged like this.
A. Gathering building materials. B. Building the treehouse. C. Furnishing the treehouse.
Topical organization.
Topical organization? What is it and why do you care? Well, people who organize their main ideas topically divide their ideas into topics. I'm not being sarcastic. That's what topical organization is. So, just for kicks, say you're giving an informative speech whose specific purpose is to describe the many ways you can have fun at a town carnival. For this speech, you could organize your speech topically, like this.
A. Enjoying the rides. B. Enjoying the professional freak shows. C. Enjoying the starchy fried concessions.
Cause-effect.
The cause-effect format identifies the causes and then determines the effects of a particular situation. Or you can use it the opposite way, identifying the obvious effects of a problem and then revealing their causes. So let's say your speech deals with the growing crime rate in the city. In a cause-effect format, you might organize your ideas like this.
Cause number 1, there aren't enough police officers to fight crime. Cause number 2, the legal system takes it easy on hardened criminals. Effect? There is more crime.
So, those are a few ways you can organize the main ideas in your speech. But just like there's more than one way to skin a cat, or to reattach that skin, there are other ways to organize your ideas. What's most important is that your organization fits the needs and style of your speech. But other questions still remain. Questions like, where am I going?
The outline. Okay, most basic outlines begin with an introduction, proceeds with a body, and ends with a conclusion. We'll be going into detail on the intro and conclusion later, but for now, let's concentrate on the body of your speech. The body of your speech is denoted by a Roman numeral, and the main points in your speech are capital letters, A, B, C, etc. Then your supporting material, the illustrations, examples, and facts you're going to use to back up your main points, are located under the big letters and labeled with Arabic numbers 1, 2, and so on. So what you're doing is arranging your speech so it flows from general to specific information.
Okay, now let's apply this outline to a real speech. Let's say the specific purpose of your speech is to explain how to avoid being mugged while visiting New York City.
Your first main point, A, could be something like, you have to be wary of your environment when visiting New York. Then you back up this main point with supporting material. Anecdotes, statistics, examples, whatever best suits your speech. These are your tiny ones and twos. So the supporting material might be a statistic like 28% of all tourists are robbed at the bus station. Or maybe an interesting anecdote about your friend who was mugged in an ATM machine at midnight. In any event, this process is repeated for all of your main points. So if your capital B is something like, be wary of the people around you when traveling in New York, you go on to back up this assertion in the same fashion.
And that's outlining the body. But just as every tale has a beginning and an end, your speeches must have
Introductions and conclusions.
You'll find an introduction at the beginning of every speech, but introductions can vary in complexity, so let's take a look at a full-fledged introduction with all the trimmings.
A complete introduction has 4 different components. They are an intention getter, a statement of purpose, a statement of rationale or statement of relevance, and a preview of the body of the speech. We'll go into each one of these elements in detail.
The attention getter.
An attention getter grabs the audience members by their faces and says, "Hey, I'm talking here, I'm talking!" A good attention getter makes the audience want to listen to what's coming up next.
One common type of attention getter is identification with the audience.
Okay, assume you're giving a speech on the many alternate uses of bubble gum to the members of the NGSC, the National Student Gum Convention, in Indiana. One type of attention getter you might try is identification with the audience.
All of us here are students, and we all love gum.
Identifying with the audience draws on something you and the audience have in common. Another great common attention getter is reference to the situation. When you do this, you acknowledge the occasion that caused the speech.
Here we are, all of us gathered together at the Indiana Gum Convention.
The statement of purpose is also a very common attention getter. This tends to work when the audience is already favorable to your ideas or when your thesis is really unexpected.
When people think of the things they value, the things that are important to them. They don't often think of gum. Today, I'm changing that.
Another winning attention getter? A startling statistic or claim.
A strategically placed wad of gum just might save your life. Don't believe me? Listen up.
The startling claim or statistic is really effective if there's a gap between what the audience thinks they know and what they actually know. But maybe that's not your speed. Maybe you want to tell a story.
I chewed my first piece of gum when I was 7 years old. I still remember it. It was cherry. It was tasty. The flavor was long-lasting. But I never knew it would save my life. You see,
Anecdotes can draw an audience right in, especially if they can relate to the characters in the story. Just make sure if you tell a story that it leads you into your main points and that it's not too long. But maybe a story's not the way for you. Maybe making a comparison is more your speed.
I looked at a box of baking soda the other day. You know, that stuff does about 15 different things. It cleans. It freshens. I'm surprised it doesn't fight crime. It's almost as versatile as gum. Yeah, that's right. Gum.
Comparisons are usually effective because differences and similarities are easily understood. Next up is the rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is a question for which no answer is expected. It's designed to make the audience think. The danger of the rhetorical question is that someone might answer it.
What would you do if I told you the answers to your problems were in that stick of gum in your pocket?
A final attention-getting example is the quotation.
A famous folk song once raised the question, does the bubble gum lose its flavor on the bedpost overnight? Possibly, but it doesn't lose any of its other qualities. Bubble gum is...
The right quote could be the perfect attention getter to rope in your audience. Just make sure the quote you choose is applicable to your speech.
And those, my friends, are the attention getters. Use them right and they'll be a knockout introduction. That is, of course, if you make the other sections of your intro just as strong. Sections like the statement of purpose, stating the relevance of your speech, and the preview of the body.
Moving right along. If you didn't use a statement of purpose as your attention getter, it's a good idea to include one in your introduction anyway. Usually, if you give the audience your thesis statement in the introduction, your statement of purpose is also revealed.
Another must in the introduction is explaining the relevance of the topic to your audience. In this section of the intro, you tell the audience how your topic relates to them. This way you'll make the ideas of your speech important to them right off the bat. This will motivate them to listen to the speech.
And finally, there's the preview of the body of the speech. By giving the listeners a preview of what's coming, summarizing the main points you'll be making, you can help your audience follow along throughout your speech.
The conclusion.
A conclusion is what comes at the end of your speech. It draws together everything that's been said and indicates what the audience should do or believe as a result of the speech. It's the last part of your outline and can be broken up into 4 parts.
A. Summarize your main points. B. Restate your purpose. C. Call your audience to action. And D. Round off.
A simple summary of main points is exactly what it sounds like. Tell them what you told them and be brief. The restatement of purpose is your opportunity to make a final appeal to the audience. It's your last shot to tell the audience exactly what you want them to do or believe. The call to action motivates the audience. It urges them to act. If your speech is about the dangers of mountain climbing, this step urges them to be wary while climbing. And finally, rounding off gives your speech a balanced, circular feel. So if you can somehow connect your conclusion back to the attention getter in your introduction, you're in good shape.
So how do you do all this stuff? What kind of stuff do you put in the conclusion to make it as effective as possible? Well, a lot of the strategies for introductions can also be used in conclusions.
A quotation can always sum up the purpose and topic of the speech with a few memorable lines.
So I urge you, take a chance. As my 4th grade Little League coach once said, you can't steal second base and keep 1 foot on first.
Challenging the audience is a technique speakers sometimes use in a conclusion. Challenging the audience motivates them to achieve the speech's purpose.
And so, the next time you go into the bathroom, make sure to ask the owner of that bathroom, where are the peanuts?
And finally, you can always offer up a utopian vision, which emphasizes what could happen if the speaker's challenge to action is met.
And if we can accomplish this, if we can convince the powers that be to ban baseball, we'll live in a world free of fear. A world where we don't have to worry about a simple ball changing the course of our lives.
Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion on the informative outline.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, is there more? More to life? More to happiness? More to outlines? Sadly, there's nothing more to life, but there is more to outlines.
Outline or persuasion.
Now, I take it you're familiar with informative outlines, unless you've just walked into the room, in which case you should buy your own tape. But if you're on the level, sit back and learn about Monroe's motivated sequence, an outline which is often used for the persuasive speech.
Monroe's motivated sequence is a pattern of arranging information so as to motivate an audience to respond positively to your purpose.
There are 5 steps in the motivated sequence which can be streamlined into an outline. These steps are the attention step, the need step, the satisfaction step, the visualization step, and finally, the action step. These 5 steps exist in a chain. Failure to fulfill any of these steps might send your speech down the drain.
Right now, we'll go over each step of Monroe's motivated sequence in detail.
Step 1, the attention step.
You learned about attention getters when we discussed introductions earlier. Well, the attention step in Monroe's motivated sequence serves the same purpose as an attention getter in a standard informative speech outline. The attention step just may be the most important step in your whole speech. If you want to make your audience feel a certain way, you've got to rope them in early. That's what the attention step does.
The purpose of this step is to make the audience give you its undivided attention. This step should make the audience anxious to hear what you have to say, jumping out of their seats even.
Johnny Ringo's back in town. Now, how do I know this? Because just the other day I saw him steal a milkshake from a little boy. Just pushed him over and stole it. Now, how long before he steals something from you?
Step 2, the need step.
The need step demonstrates that a distinct need exists for the audience members. The need may be to know something, to change a certain belief or opinion, or even an institution that needs to be fixed. This is the step where the bulk of your supporting material should be. Your statistics, anecdotes, and facts can all serve to motivate.
We need to force Johnny Ringo out of our homes. Every day he robs, pillages, cheats on taxes, kicks our dogs, pollutes our waters, poisons birds, plagiarizes our work, and sets up rigged carnival games in our town square. Now, he is an outlaw in the truest sense of the word, and we got a civic duty to run him out of town. Huh?
So the result of this step should be that the audience should feel they need to know something or do something. It's the kick in the butt step.
Step 3, the satisfaction step. The satisfaction step presents the answer or solution to the need you demonstrated in step 2. You have to convince the audience that what you're telling them will actually satisfy the need you've brought up.
If we want to get rid of Johnny Ringo, we got to band together. We got to form a posse, confront him, and drive him out. Now, just 2 weeks ago, the townspeople of Snake Creek drove out Eddie the Tooth Skaggs. In fact, law enforcement surveys report that 78% of towns that form posses send their outlaws a-running. The time to form a posse is now!
So, any statistics, illustrations, or other supporting material that makes your solution seem appealing would be right at home in the satisfaction step.
Step 4, the visualization step.
In the visualization step, you're supposed to intensify the audience's feelings or beliefs. Basically, you get the audience to visualize the way their situation might be if they were to see it your way.
But maybe you're scared to form a posse. Maybe you just want to forget about all this, go inside and crawl underneath your bunks. Well, it's tempting, I know. But let's say we forget about all this. Let's say we let Johnny Ringo run free. In a year's time, he'll own this town. No one will be safe. Grandmothers will be afraid to go to church. Kids won't leave their houses for school. Cats will befriend dogs for protection. Now, before you know it, he'll be running for mayor. His campaign slogan, elect Johnny Ringo, or else. And the way things look, he just might win.
No! In the visualization step, you take your listeners beyond the present time and place and pose the question of what might be. You can conjure up a positive visualization or, if you prefer, a negative visualization of what might happen if your plan wasn't enacted.
Step 5, the action step.
This is the final step, the home stretch. In the action step, you tell your audience what they have to do to make sure the need you've revealed is satisfied. It's your final chance to get people up off their rear ends to take action.
So I want you to go home. I want you to grab your six-shooters, your slingshots, your sharp silverware, whatever you got. I want you to call your neighbors, your friends, your clergymen. I want a posse out here by dawn. We're going to take back this town.
And there you have it, Monroe's motivated sequence. Use these steps so that your speech has the greatest possible impact. Start out with the attention step.
We're gathered here today because we don't want our children playing with broken glass in the streets.
Move on to the need step.
We need to build a juvenile recreation center.
Follow up with the satisfaction step.
If we can get this center built, we can reduce juvenile crime and juvenile injuries. 60% of the towns that have community centers
hit them with the visualization step.
And what happens if we don't build this center? They find their kicks elsewhere. Maybe they play with glass in the sandlot. Maybe they throw rocks at cars from the overpass.
And finally, round off with the action step.
So I ask that you dig deep into your pockets and clear your social calendars. All it'll take is a group effort and a lot of cooperation.
Persuade away. Use the steps. Make Monroe proud.
Transitions.
A transition is the bridge between two different parts of a speech. Good transitions actually serve a whole bunch of purposes. They provide a sense of flow to the speech, and they make it easier for the audience to figure out where you are in the development of your speech.
In a good transition, you should always try to briefly summarize what's just been discussed, briefly preview what's coming up next, and provide a link between two ideas. There's certain word combinations that can help you do this. Combinations like not only, but also.
So, it's important to always know where your fire exits are. But not only should you be aware of how to prevent being trapped in a fire, you should also understand the dangers of actually being trapped. Smoke inhalation.
Other great transition phrases are in addition to, furthermore, and however. And remember that it's always important to script your transitions in order to avoid verbal clutter.
The next point I want to make is that, well, fire kind of, well, you know, it burns.
Well, you get the point. Scripting helps you out. It also helps to use signposts. Signposts are verbal cues that indicate where exactly you are in the structure of your speech. There are obvious signposts, like using the keywords first, second, or third to label the points you're making. There's also changes in delivery of a speech. Stuff like pauses, changes in rate, pitch or volume. All these devices are signposts that show you're moving on to a new section of your speech. But that's delivery jargon. We'll get to that in a little bit.
And that's the whole truth, people. That's what you'll need to write your speech. So know these steps and guidelines. Write furiously, write clearly, and write well, because the moment of truth is right around the corner. And that faithful day sneaks up on you sooner than you think.
Part 2, Delivering the Speech.
The time has come. After all the preparation, all the research, all the writing, it's time to walk down the aisle and step up on stage. It's time to rope in the audience, to make them yours, to make them eat out of the palm of your hand. Can you do it?
Yes, you certainly can do it. But in order to present your speech to the best of your abilities, you have to learn about style and delivery. Let's tackle style first.
Section A, Style.
A long time